Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. In this tutorial, I'll be explaining to you guys about the useRef React hook. I'll be explaining what it is, how to use it, and why you should use it. And all the code in the video will be found in the description in my GitHub. Now let's get started. What I have here is a blank React app I have created using Vite. And before we start programming, let me explain what the useRef does. So for example, if we want to have some data we want to store, we would probably use a state variable. But the problem with that is every time the data changes, then the entire component will re-render. Now that could create a problem for our users because if the component keeps re-rendering, it could cause like lag or some other problems for our users, and useRef minimizes that. Okay, so to show how the component keeps re-rendering every time state value changes and how this could create a potential error for our users, let's make a simple increment button which will increment the value using useState, and we will also have a useEffect which will run every time the component renders. So to do this, let's import useState, useEffect, and useRef from React. Under the app, let's make a state. Let's make a state and let's give it a default value of just 0. Under here, let's make a function which will update the value whenever we click a button. So here we go, and let's set the value to be value plus 1. And under the function, let's make a useEffect which will run every time the component re-renders. So we can just have this console.log component rendered, and let's also console.log the value every time you click a button that updates the value. And instead of returning a div, let's return a button which will be update, and when we click it, it's going to run the update value function. Now also, if it says component render twice, all you have to do is delete the strict mode in your main.jsx file. So now it's going to say component rendered once, and if we click update, it's going to update it to 0 and it's going to say component rendered. So component rendered again. If we update it again, it's going to say component rendered because it just rendered again. So as you can see, every time the state value changes, the component keeps getting rendered. Now this really isn't a problem for us right now, but once our app gets bigger, or if you already have a pretty big app and if your component keeps re-rendering, it could create a potential error. So now let's create this same app but using useRef. So we can keep our useEffect the same. So whenever the component renders, it's gonna still console.log component rendered. But let's change this useState. So let's just delete this entire line and let's instead make a ref. So we can do const, and we have to give it a descriptive name. So let's do value counter ref is equal to useRef, and like with the useState, we have to give it like a default value. When we have this, we can go on over to our function, and instead of updating the set value, we can delete this line. And to update a useRef value, you have to call the name of the variable which you have it stored in. So ours would be value counter ref, and you have to get the current value, and we can just add 1 to this, and we can console.log value counter ref dot current. So it's going to console.log the current value ref. So there we go. Now if we click the update button, as you can see, it's not going to re-render the component, because if it were to re-render the component, it would log component re-rendered or component rendered. So as you can see, we can update it and the component will not be rendered. Now What is this any use for us? Well, first of all, it's going to create less lag, but we can also use useRef to add HTML things instead of just numbers. So to do this, let's return the button. Let's actually add a fragment here so we don't get an error. Let's add this button inside of this fragment. Now under the button, let's create an input. So input, and let's do a placeholder of type stuff here. Nice. Now let's make it so that whenever we click this update button, or let's actually change it to type, so every time we click this button, it's going to focus on this so we can type stuff in it. And to do that, it's pretty simple. Instead of the function adding 1 to the useRef value, let's actually make this a useRef value target the input. So to do that, let's remove the 0, change it to null, and in the input, we have to do ref is equal to curly brackets, and in here we have to give it the name of our reference, so value counter ref. Now this ref here is connected to this input value, and HTML has a special property of ref, which is just used to connect reference values. So instead of adding 1, let's make it so we get value counter ref, and let's do value counter ref dot current dot focus. Now whenever we click this button, it's going to focus on the input. So as you can see, we can click the type button and it can start typing, and every time we do this, the component will not be rendered or re-rendered. So this is just a simple tutorial on useRef. There is obviously a lot more, but if you enjoyed this video, do go ahead and leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.